Here we go with the 2D podcast. It's an NFL podcast, is what it is, people. Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network. Eric Eager, decked out in his GAN asphalt and concrete hoodie from Sumer Sports. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. As we talk some NFL football, we're going to go over who are the biggest challengers to the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going 7 deep. I think you can figure out some of the names at the top, but it starts to get a little bit thinner. After you get by, I would say 4. I thought 4 were easy. You can put them in almost any order you want, but who are the next 3? I think that's open for a lot of discussion. We'll talk about that. Also, some new rules in the NFL. We've got a new kickoff rule, bringing the ball out to the 25. We've got a new rule regarding Thursday nights being able to be flexed in weeks 13 through 17 and some new international territories. We'll see if we've got time to get to it all. Right now, folks, it's the 2 Deep NFL Podcast.
You're listening to the 2 Deep Podcast, the most complete analysis of the National Football League, breaking down the NFL like no one else can. 2 Deep is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Eric Eager is the vice president of research and development for Sumer Sports. Soren Petro was the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. 2 Deep is proudly brought to you by GAN Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at ganasphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. GAN Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. GAN Asphalt and Concrete is now hiring for all positions: project manager, dump truck drivers, operators, and crew members. Starting pay up to $30 per hour based on experience, with paid time off and insurance, just to name a few of the benefits. Check out ganasphalt.com for more info. Now, here are the hosts of the 2 Deep Football Podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro.
Back at it here on a Tuesday. If you're catching us via the podcast, remember we do stream live on Tuesday nights, usually around 9 o'clock Central Time. If you want to be a part of the conversation, that's how you can do it right here. We are on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Am I forgetting anything of note that I should be mentioning, gentlemen? I don't think so. I think that's all of our formats. You can be a part of the conversation there in the chat room. We got a lot of folks lining up who want to comment. We're going to talk about who the top challengers are to the Kansas City Chiefs. Jeff, just real quick, was your experience the same as mine? Do you agree that we're all going to have probably the same 4 teams in some order, 1 through 4?
Maybe the same 4. I think it'll get interesting after 3, but certainly the last 3 will be. I think we'll all have different teams in the last 3. That'd be my guess, and I'm sure Eric has one roar left to put out there that will be in the mix. I'm sure not in my list, but he's going to probably have some Honolulu blue.
I made my wife, because she's home, help. We're moving, and I made her watch. She's from Wisconsin. I made her watch Lions Packers Week 18, Goff going into Lambeau and being the difference between the Packers and the playoffs. Goff's a big game quarterback, Jeff. You left that out of the model.
By the way, let the record show we came in under. A lot of people posting lines that we wouldn't get started till 9:01. We got in at like 8:50 something. So thank you very much. Of course, it was about how long Eric's bathroom break is. That's true. He's also packing, people. Eric is moving. There's even activity scurrying around him.
Yeah, as his wife is moving.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I am like
Eager didn't take any time decorating his walls in the new place. This is the old place. He's leaving, so everything's gone, so everybody, can we be kind to Eric tonight? Is there a reason for that? Is there a reason?
I do wonder if Eric picked a house with a setting he could have like a palatial office in there, so he could walk in there and really showcase everything about his new pad, his new wealth.
The thing I didn't like about my old, the place now is like my old office. It was like 180 degrees in there all the time. But like now, I hope obviously this new place will be better off. I think.
I like. I hope Eric can help his wife after the pod. She looks like she's working very hard getting the digs in line. Yeah. So pretty much is Eric sits and blabs about football, what he does every day of his life. And she works hard. That's how it.
What's the over under on Eric getting laid tonight after seeing his wife move around like that? Take the under.
That's the
Every time.
funny part. Like what I love so much about this show is like me and Petro are like always kind of a little on the edge, right? Jeff's always like a decent distance away from it, and then crosses the line like once every 5 shows. Which is like the best.
Yeah. No, when we dance around it or tiptoe across it or reach across it. Jeff, when he goes, he just knocks it down.
That's right.
He jumps right in the pool.
Piss on that line. I'm going right through it. Here we go. I like how it works. Very good. All right, let's get it started. Let's see. We had Jeff go first. How about Jeff goes last? When we did our last podcast, if you're catching this one and you're a football fan, we do a Kansas City Chiefs podcast as well called Red, Gold, and Bold. You can find that wherever you find this podcast as well. But Jeff went first. That's the easiest way for me to keep score. Jeff, do you mind going first?
I don't know. But the format here is we're going who we got number one, the most likely team.
Most likely
the Chiefs don't win it, right? The Chiefs
don't win it. Who takes the two? The Chiefs are the betting favorite. We assume most people would take the Kansas City Chiefs first. They've got the history. They've got all the experience. But if you're not taking the Chiefs, who are you taking? Who takes out the Kansas City Chiefs? Most likely, Jeff, is who?
Bengals.
Okay.
Cincinnati Bengals, Eric's soon-to-be former hometown. They played in Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were the AFC runner-up last year. They still have arguably the best offense in football with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Joe Burrow. You could probably argue that the Niners with their skill players are up there, but their quarterback is nowhere near as good as Joe Burrow. Obviously, question marks on defense. Now they lost Von Bell and Jesse Bates, but I just feel like every year this team is going to keep getting better because the quarterback's good. The coach, obviously, the coaching is really good, and they're making smart moves. And so I totally believe that they will be back in the AFC title game playing against the Chiefs again this year. And if the Chiefs don't win it, this is the team to beat. I like the Bengals.
All right, and just to be clear, the purpose here, this is AFC or NFC, right?
Yeah, all comers, all teams.
Okay, all comers. All right, Cincinnati Bengals for Jeff. Eric, where are you going?
Yeah, I really wanted to pick Buffalo here, but all the things that Jeff said are true. The Bengals just do an annoying. They're annoyingly good at a lot of stuff, right? That they take positions a year in the draft before they need them, and a lot of times they're premium positions. Last year it was Dax Hill from Michigan and Cam Taylor-Britt, and then this year it was Miles Murphy from Clemson. Like they don't need a defensive end, but a few years from now when they're paying everybody all that money, that they'll need to jettison one of them, and they'll have a guy on a rookie deal here coming up. So I'm just a big fan of what they do, and I know that they're going to have some issues with salaries coming up, but I think with respect to this year, they are the biggest challenger in the entire league.
That's the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I wanted to pick the Bills, but Jeff's right, I think.
Okay, so you're gutless, Eric, but I'm not. The Buffalo Bills are the right answer to this one. They were the most talented team and should have won it last year. This was Eric coined the phrase, and I love it. I use it a lot. It was the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl, and the Chiefs stole it. And that happens. The Chiefs had the 2020 Super Bowl was the Chiefs, and the Bucs stole it. The Chiefs were the better team throughout the portion of the year, but they were banged up at the end. The Bucs stole it. The Bills had some injuries. The Bills had a game get canceled, had a player die on the field and be resuscitated. And then they ran into a team that I think they're better than, the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they would have won on the Monday night game, and I think they would have won in the playoffs had it not snowed and helped the garbage offensive line of the Bengals be able to basically neutralize the pass rush. So I think the Bills were the better team last year. I don't think Orlando Brown is an upgrade for the Bengals. I think they're the same kind of team they were last year. And I think the Buffalo Bills now get to play this season without a bullseye on their back. So I think the Buffalo Bills. I do worry that I'm dead wrong and they're a 10-7 team because kind of the shines come off and their feeling of invincibility. If I'm wrong on this, I will point out I'm going to crash and burn hard. Right? We're not going to be arguing over it at the end. And the Bengals, the Bills aren't going to miss this by one game. They're going to miss it by like 3 or 4. If I'm wrong and you guys are right, the Bills will implode because like their feeling of confidence was just destroyed.
So you're not buying into the AFC East being tougher with Aaron Rodgers being there and all the defense in Miami. So you think they win the AFC East, they get the top seed too?
Are we talking about all 9 games that Aaron Rodgers will play this year? He's already hurt. They haven't even put on pads yet. Yeah. The Miami Dolphins are a legitimate threat for sure. The New England Patriots are not. They'll beat some people. Bill Belichick will have good game plans. He'll do what he can, but he's not going to consistently knock anyone down. No, it's the Bills division. They will win. They will win by 2 games. Okay. In my opinion. Again, if I'm wrong, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it's an 11-6 Jets team that beats a 10-7 Bills team. And I'll admit if I'm wrong. I expect the Bills to circle the wagons and come out. And, Eric and I have talked about it before, the 2019 Chiefs. That was kind of them. But if they don't get hurt, they won't have the Chiefs lost Patrick Mahomes. I think Josh Allen, they start to protect a little bit better. I think they get another year of trying to figure out the scheme to not get him beat to hell before the end of the season comes around. So I'm on the Bills for that one. All right, number 2. Eric, you want to lead us off on number 2?
Yeah, it's Buffalo. The thing about Buffalo kind of strikes me more like the 2021 Rams more than they do the 2019 Chiefs, just because you have a quarterback who I think is very talented but is erratic and susceptible to injuries, as we saw last year, where when things go poorly for him injury-wise, it can kind of go a little bit he's not going to be bad, but it's we know how Stafford is, right? And Josh Allen's kind of a rich man Stafford in that way. Von Miller is probably not going to be back like right away, so he'll be more like the Von Miller that helped the Rams, which was like halfway through the year. And there are some real superstars, Stephon Diggs, on the defensive side of the ball, Tre'Davious White's a superstar. So I think that they're right up there with the Bengals, and I think that they'll be a threat this year.
I'll go with the Bengals, number 2. No big surprise there. I do think that these are the top 3 teams in football are in the AFC because I think still arguably the top 3 quarterbacks, although I would certainly sit and listen to Jalen Hurts' name being mentioned a lot. But the top 3 quarterbacks are in this order: Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen. And I think that's a good place to start. And I think all of them have weapons. All of them have defensive talent. So I think it is without a doubt the Bills and Bengals that are the 2 biggest threats. And I think it again makes the AFC very exciting because you don't want to be the 2, I should say. You don't want to be the 2 that got to play each other before you go play the 3rd. And so I think that also motivates these teams to play at a really high level during the regular season because they know they're playing for something a lot. They're playing for a lot to get to that number 1 seed. But I have the Bengals number 2. Jeff, you have the Bengals 1. Who do you have 2?
Well, you said you wanted to listen to Jalen Hurts as an argument. You're about to hear it.
Okay.
Because this is where we're going to start deviating because I think the Eagles are the second best option in this exercise. And like Buffalo's not too far behind them in my list here, but I will say that the Eagles, the way they played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, the way Jalen Hurts grew, I understand no Jonathan Gannon. I understand no Shane Steichen, but I think the Eagles have people to pick up the pieces there. I think Brian Johnson is going to be a really good offensive coordinator who was the quarterback's coach there, for example. I think he will be helpful to Jalen Hurts continuing to develop. And I like that they kept some of their core leaders. I don't think that I think losing Javon Hargrave is a big loss. I think the linebackers leaving. I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson's a big hit to their secondary. But the flip side of it is you're keeping Jason Kelce, you're keeping Brandon Graham, you're keeping Darius Slay, you're keeping some guys in the locker room who are leaders who can push some of these younger guys, have them understand what it takes to compete. I think the NFC is just weaker. I mean, obviously, they're not going to have as much competition. Now, they got a house of a schedule. I mean, they got 10 games in the middle of their schedule that are going to be rough as you're going to get. But the other side of the coin here is that I just think that they, to me, are the most reliable team because they got a quarterback who's playing on the MVP level. A lot of the offensive pieces are there. They've made good moves in the offseason. And I just think they're going to be right there at the top of the NFC again.
All right. And I wrote down Jalen Hurts. I guess technically it won't be just one guy. It'll be the Philadelphia Eagles that'll be there. All right. That brings us to number 3 on the list. First of all, I'll tell you, we're brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the entire Kansas City area and now hiring all positions, drivers, project managers, crew members, starting pay up to $30 per hour based upon your experience. Paid off and insurance, just to name a few of the benefits. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one of the best places in Kansas City to work. Find them online right now at gannasphalt.com to find more information. Number 3 on my list is the San Francisco 49ers.
Whoa.
I have got the Niners because I think they have everything. I think they will scheme to what they need to do. I think that they have multiple options at quarterback. It doesn't even matter. I think a lot of this will be at the end, and I think that I don't see anybody. I mean, the roster is just rock solid. I'm not sure. I'm fine with the Eagles being in front of them, and I think the Eagles certainly are healthier at quarterback and have the better quarterback. But I don't expect Jalen Hurts to play 17 games, right? So everything is about the 49ers quarterback position already being banged up. First of all, I have more optimism. Trey Lance was not a disaster. I don't understand all the massive defense for Justin Fields in Chicago, but somehow Trey Lance is being tossed out. The numbers were fine when he got started. And, I don't think he's going to be terrible. He's clearly gone to work. He's worked out with Patrick Mahomes. And I think they got a hell of a play caller. As much as I have said, hey, why is Kyle Shanahan getting all the love? And I will stand by the comments I made 2 years ago, but he's not getting all the love now. Now he's not really getting any of it. Now it's all about the Philadelphia Eagles, who also lost both their coordinators, I will point out. Okay, and I think that's of note. Are we sure Boy Wonder can just go point to a couple of guys? I think they're actually going to be okay on offense. The quarterback's coach is given a ton of credit. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's probably Brian Johnson, the next African-American coach to be hired in the NFL. I think he will be fine, but I think Hurts will get hurt. I'm not convinced that they're going to be great on defense. They did lose some pieces. The Niners didn't lose anything, and I think they'll get Brock Purdy back at some point, and I'm not even sure he's going to be the guy. I think Trey Lance might be the guy. So I'm all about me some San Francisco 49ers over. Jeff?
Your Bills come up now.
Okay.
3 on my list for all the reasons you guys have said. I do think they're in a better spot without having to be in the spotlight, without having to worry about carrying the weight of expectations. I do believe, as they've said, it was a heavy emotional toll toward the end of the year with all the injuries, with all the stuff with DeMar Hamlin. And I like the idea of Sean McDermott calling plays on defense. I think Leslie Frazier got a little bit stale, predictable in what he was doing. I think that they will be better in the secondary, having Jordan Poyer come back. Now, he's an older guy now, and Micah Hyde's an older guy, but I think that solidifies what they've had before in the past back there with, the cornerback situation is strong with Tre'Davious White. I do worry about them not having Von Miller for an entire season. I like that Josh Allen is talking about making better decisions, playing more within himself, not putting himself in harm's way. And I think really the wild card here is how good of a player is Dalton Kincaid. That was their big investment in the first round of the draft at tight end. We thought they'd go receiver. They're talking about this guy like he's the second coming of Travis Kelce. Probably a lot more 2 tight end sets in this offense now, so we'll see what that does. But they got to find a way to take the pressure off Josh Allen, not make him do so much in the offense. If they can do that, they should have a pretty good chance of winning a championship.
Okay. That takes us to Eric, who's number 3 on your list.
Yeah, this one's really tough. Part of me wants to stay AFC, but I do think that now is the time for an NFC team. And I'm going to go with...
You know what we do when we get to be grown-ups? We get the assignment done before we walk up to the desk. And we don't have to sit
Petro, I'm adding suspense. I have it done. I'm talking through my notes. Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, my Lord. All right. I love it.
Yeah,
Dallas Cowboys.
Eric is really tired. Cowboys.
Okay. Let's add that. Let's talk through this. Dallas has the best quarterback in the NFC. They shored up one of their There's significant issues last year, which is they didn't have a complementary player to CeeDee Lamb. They have Brandon Cooks now, who's a down the field player. They are no longer going to give 200 carries to Ezekiel Elliott at 3.5 yards a clip. They got Mozzie Smith on defense to add to their up the field sort of really fun Dan Quinn defense. Another year with Dan Quinn there. The only leak for me is Kellen Moore not being there anymore. But I'm willing to overlook that for all the great things that Dallas has. We're talking about a team that won 12 games 2 consecutive years. This isn't Detroit, right? Like, no offense to Lions, but like this is a real football team.
Okay. See what I'm doing here, Eric?
All right. You guys
For people on the podcast, I just keep putting up comments from Todd. Eric looks really tired.
That's right. He went right from 1 to 7 on the list, so we can be done in 20 minutes. Podcast is over. Eric got a 17 in.
A couple of things that have been fired out here in the podcast. Eagles had a great draft too. Somebody ripping me for, isn't this the same guy who pounds how important the quarterbacks are? I think quarterback play is going to be better than people think for the 49ers. And again, I think Jalen Hurts will be hurt. They run him too much. Fields beat Lance. Whatever. Hey, you want Fields? Have at him. I'll take your action all day. Didn't say Lance is the next Mahomes. I said Trey Lance worked out with Mahomes. He's working. He's trying to get better on the season. Brock Purdy might get exposed for sure. Eric does look tired. I agree. I think we do. We just
I just took a shower before I came on the show. I'm perfectly fine.
Okay, just want to make sure. You're okay. By the way, we're to number 4, which brings us back to Jeff, who's number 4 on your list.
Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets.
Oh wow! Okay.
I am buying the hype. I am all in on the hype train. Maybe because every time I turn on ESPN, they're doing an Aaron Rodgers story, something new.
ESPN, by the way, really good at predicting the future by virtue of their 97%.
I know he's watched Jersey Shore. I know he's gone to whatever Rangers game, the Knicks game. So he must be helping that team improve. I feel like Aaron Rodgers with a chip on his shoulder is hard to beat, hard to bet against. I think he will play at an MVP level for this team. I know Eric talks a lot about defenses coming, disappointing after a really big first year. So I respect his opinion on that, but I think they put too much into this. I think if he is as good as he can play, if he's still at MVP level, and that defense still plays at a very high level, they got the defensive rookie of the year, the offensive rookie of the year. Breece Hall was on his way to being a really good running back before he got hurt. The offensive line, aside from tackle, is pretty strong. Quinnen Williams is an all-pro player.
Tackle.
Exactly. That's what they're for. That's what they're for.
But Jeff's making a good point. Like, this roster is stacked. If Aaron Rodgers shows up, it should be in a good spot. Robert Salah is not an idiot. I think bringing in Nathaniel Hackett is a little bit of a red flag.
That is the worst. Yeah. That is the reason to not go anywhere near the New York Jets is Nathaniel Hackett. And by the way, David LaFleur isn't over his shoulder fixing whatever things he does. It was one thing to carry Aaron's bags around the, Milwaukee, Wisconsin airport. It's another thing to actually be responsible for the offense, which he will be.
Appleton.
And wherever it is. He'll be responsible.
Matt LaFleur. David was the tight end for the Cowboys back in the day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Matt LaFleur. Thank you. Or no, isn't David his brother?
No,
it's Mike.
Mike LaFleur is his brother. That was the OC, and
they got fired.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, no on the Jets. Hard no on the New York Jets at 4. Hard no on the Jets at 4. We'll get to the Jets later. Eric, who do you got number 4?
Yeah. So at number 4. I'm going to go with your pick, the San Francisco 49ers. All the reasons you said are true. Shanahan is very good. I get frustrated with them because of their in-game decision-making is nowhere close to as good as his play calling. I agree with you on Lance if they keep Lance around. But whatever they do at quarterback, obviously the guy that they want playing is going to be good enough because everybody that plays quarterback for the Niners is good enough except for like Nick Mullins. So I'm a fan. They do lose D'Amico Ryans, but they lost Salah and basically didn't skip a beat either. So I think that this is a very talented football team with a lot going for it.
Well, there's no drama to what I have. I have the Philadelphia Eagles here, and I've talked about why I put them in that order, just because I think exposing – I think they're going to try to be more protective of Jalen Hurts now that they paid him all that money, but I think they're going to not be able to resist. They're going to run him, and I think he's going to get hurt. He was banged up, allegedly, going into the Super Bowl, and I think he'll be banged up again. But to me, like, I don't have anything new to say about the Eagles. They're a really good team. There's a lot to like about them. The only thing I will say is I am stunned. There was no chance that anybody not named the Bills, Bengals, Niners, or Eagles would be 1 through 4. I mean, are you just trying to be different? Are you just trying to be creative? Are you guys actually buying the Cowboys and Jets are on the same level as those 4 teams?
Oh, I mean, the same team hasn't won the NFC East back-to-back years since, like, Bush was president. What are we doing here? Like, the idea that this.
So that's how it works. It doesn't have anything to do with who's on the field.
What?
So that's how we do it here. It doesn't have anything to do with who's on the field or on the rosters. We just go, oh, there's been this weird little quirky thing where the same team hasn't won it back-to-back. The Chiefs hadn't won the AFC West in like a decade, and now they've won it like 7 in a row. So what the hell did you do the first time they won?
What that means is, like, if you look at the Eagles like they're the Chiefs, they're not. The Chiefs have the dog-ass Broncos, the terrible Raiders, and the step on their own junk every 5 minutes Chargers.
The Commanders and
Giants. With the Chiefs that's won 24 regular season games
Sam
the last 2 years.
Sam Howell and Danny Dimes equals 4-0. They're 4-0.
Dallas plays those teams too. Metro.
Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts? Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts?
Dak.
Oh, my God. Oh, you've lost your mind.
I lost my mind too last year when I picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl. Dak is a better quarterback. We're over-indexing on 1 year of play where Dak broke a finger and came back and threw some interceptions. He's the better quarterback. He's the best quarterback in the entire conference.
No. Ridiculous.
Yes. Jalen Hurts. Before the Super Bowl, we were asking ourselves, oh, God, let's bet the Jalen Hurts under in the Super Bowl because his arm looks washed. Like, you think he's going to be able to take another year of getting pushed for a yard 15 times a season?
I don't think they'll do it as much, but I'll be happy to take – I mean,
Petro, I'll bet you a steak dinner Dallas wins more games than the Eagles does.
How many steaks? You owe me like a dozen.
I don't owe you a dozen.
You owe me, I'll be
we have a dozen in pending for sure, but I don't owe you a dozen.
I got to start writing these things down. Like, I can't keep track of all of them when you just.
So what's the bet? Prescott has a better year?
No, just who wins more games, Eagles, Cowboys.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
I've got the Eagles.
I mean, let's just say who wins the division because.
Okay.
Yeah, who wins the division?
Okay, fine. Like, I don't know. I don't understand how that's going to. You just want the tiebreaker in there.
Right.
Okay.
Like, I don't want you skimping out because of a tiebreaker.
Okay. That's fine. That works for me. Eric, you're up first with your 5th choice. I know it's not the Eagles, so is this where we hear the Lions?
It is. I mean, it is the Eagles now.
Oh.
But it is the Eagles now.
Okay.
The Eagles are great. They lose both coordinators. That hurts. They lose Javon Hargrave. That hurts. Everybody's a little older on the offensive line. They're absolutely up against it on the cap. You can put that up there. Every single one of their veteran players that's worth a damn has a vet minimum paragraph 5, which means they pushed everything in the future. They're levered the hell up, but they are good. And they have an owner who is willing to spend, and they have a very good head coach who will go for the right 4th downs, except for against the Chiefs on their own end of the field when they punted Kadarius Toney. Thank you very much. But this is a good football team. I just think they're going to take a little bit of a step backwards, and there is a team in their division, Dallas, that can take advantage of it.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. This is a boomer bust selection as well. Reaction.
Yeah.
Firepower.
I'm getting roasted for picking Dak Prescott. You're sitting here taking Tua Tagovailoa 7 seed over here is
straight face
to shine. Come
That's it.
on, some dopey ass head coach with throwing moonballs to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's one torn Achilles out the door already, saying he's going to retire after this year. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll take the Dolphins. At number 5. Weapons all over the field. A quarterback that can throw dimes. Yes, he needs to stay healthy. That's a giant part of the equation. There's no doubt. But
no pass rush.
I think the Miami Dolphins. I will take their offense to put them out there. The point is to dethrone the Chiefs. So if you're going to play the Chiefs, what do you have to do to beat the Chiefs?
Yeah,
are you going to go out and win a 16-13
I think a Tua Tagovailoa 7 seed.
Are you going to win a game against the Chiefs 16-13?
No, but you're also not going to win a game against the Chiefs with Tua Tagovailoa as your quarterback. I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll find out. I'll take the Miami Dolphins. I think they have the weaponry. I believe in where they're going. I'll take the Miami Dolphins. Jeff?
Niners checking at 5 for me. Okay. They would be higher. I totally agree with what you're saying about their roster. I love what they have. I'm just not – I just feel like Brock Purdy to me, I know he had a great run the last 7 games of the season until he got hurt in the NFC Championship game. But it feels like now you have an offseason to see what they did with him. Now you have an offseason to figure out schemes and ways to attack him. I just think they were able to hide him within their scheme last year. I think he will have to do a lot more this coming season I think what we saw was the ceiling for him last year, to be honest with you. And I just think that when it comes down to it, he may end up being the reason they don't win a championship. But if he's anything close to what he was or can get above to where he was at the end of last year, yeah, they'll be a really good team because everything else is in place. I mean, you got Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and Kittle and the offensive line, and they pick up Javon Hargrave. I mean, they're impressive on paper. Can't deny it. But part of me feels like Seattle's a lot more dangerous threat to them than people realize. I think that they will be a much bigger challenge this coming season in the NFC West for them.
All right. That takes us, let's see, we're to number 6. So I'm up first. My 6 seed is the Dallas Cowboys. For all the reasons that have been mentioned. What is that?
That's a good pick. Good for you, Petro.
What is that?
Good pick.
I don't understand. Why am I getting grief on the Cowboys?
You're not. I'm glad you picked them. They're great.
The Dallas Cowboys are number 6 on my list. Dak Prescott is a fine quarterback. You're going to have to get defensive scores to win. They've got a great playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. I agree with what Eric said about the receivers and the fact that Ezekiel Elliott, they don't have to justify his contract anymore. I do like the Cowboys. I do like McCarthy. I think he's underrated. And but I do think the Eagles are better. And so therefore I think that makes that a tough spot if they've got to, going to finish second to the Eagles. I think they're not very likely to be the 1 seed. So I will take the Dallas Cowboys at number 6. Jeff?
Same team, same spot. Cowboys at 6. I feel like Eric mentioned this earlier that this is the first offseason in a while where when it comes to free agency and trades, not just the draft, but making moves to make their team better, that they went into the offseason saying, let's be very pragmatic about this. Let's not, put on our rose-colored glasses and hope for the best. Let's get rid of Ezekiel Elliott and let's go with Tony Pollard. Let's find somebody here to help CeeDee Lamb be better, help Zach have another weapon in the offense. Brandon Cooks, take the top off the defense. Stephon Gilmore, I think, can still play. We saw him play against the Chiefs last year. We saw him make plays throughout the year for a very bad team. He's not what he was 5-6 years ago when he was Defensive Player of the Year, but I think you put him opposite Trayvon Diggs. Now your secondary gets better. I like a lot of things that they've done. I think Kellen Moore will be a loss for them, but I think they'll play more in a fashion that allows Dak Prescott to be effective, which is to say, hey, we got to do things around you to make you be at your best. We'll do that now. And so I think that they will be they're a good team. Eric's right. They're a really good team, and they can be even a better team if they can stay consistent, because that was their big problem last year. 1 week they look like a championship team. Next week they look like a team that shouldn't even be thinking about, drafting outside of the top 10 of the draft.
Number 6, Eric, is who?
It is the New York Football Jets.
Okay.
I think they're very similar to what Tampa Bay was. They're very similar to where Tampa Bay was in 2020. I think the Bills are kind of similar to where the Saints were, where they were at times the best team in football, but they never, sort of got to the window. And they're the Jets are probably going to be a wild card team that's going to be very dangerous in the playoffs.
Okay. Number 7. Or did I give mine? I gave the Cowboys. I was first up on that one, right? So number 7, we're back to Jeff for the leadoff spot.
This was a tough one here because I wanted to go with the Lions, but I wanted a team that made the playoffs last year, so I'm going with the Chargers. Okay. I feel like they got a tough road. They got to get over the Chiefs to get there. But I love Kellen Moore going to coach Justin Herbert. I think that was the best offseason assistant coach move of the offseason. I feel like Quentin Johnston, people are saying he's not that fast, blah, blah, blah. I think they need another receiver to come in there and help their offense. So I think that'll help. I look at what they have offensively, what Kellen Moore had in Dallas. It mirrors that a lot. Yeah. Also, Eckler can be his Tony Pollard. They've got a number of receivers, athletic tight ends, big offensive line. If they can stay healthy, they didn't stay healthy last year and it cost them, but if they can find a way to keep guys on the field, this is probably, if I'm picking one more team in this exercise, I will take them over the Dolphins and the Lions.
Eric, number 7 on your list. And if you say the Los Angeles Chargers, I may be on a flight to punch you in your face.
No, it's the Detroit Lions. Last year, for part of the year, they were the Detroit Lions because they had no defense, NOD. They go and get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley. I don't like the Jack Campbell pick, but I think it makes him better immediately. You add Kaminsky, as well as Aiden Hutchinson, Ali McNeil. I'm blanking on the pass rusher that was like undrafted but had like 8 sacks.
James Houston.
Yeah, and then offensive line's great. They got a tight end in the draft, even that I'm fans with, Brian Branch, a safety who's a good football player. Amon-Ra St. Brown, to me, is the linchpin. When he played last year, they were a great offense. When he didn't play, they got like shut out. Didn't score touchdowns. I think Jared Goff, they, unlike the Eagles, they kept both coordinators, Aaron Glenn, as well as Ben Johnson. This isn't a joke anymore. I do think it's, the path to that division is pretty clear. And then if you get in the playoffs, it's just a matter of matchups for them, I think.
Okay. I go with the New York Jets as the last one. I do think, for all the reasons that were said by you guys, the roster is very good. There's a lot of talent there. There's young talent. I do worry that, I'm not as sold on Salah as everybody else is. And Quinnen Williams popping off and, about his contract and what team he plays for. I wonder, can he keep this thing together? And I don't think Aaron Rodgers is exactly a uniting force. And we'll see how everybody takes to him. If he comes out there, if he walks off the practice field today, Tuesday, as we record here, walks out the practice field, first of all, staying healthy is a real question mark for him. But also, if he's not going to participate in any of let's see how much of the OTA stuff he does. And then he rolls in and, lays an egg the first week, which has been what he's done each of the last 4 or 5 years in Green Bay. I think they could get off to a really rough start, and that could be a problem. But you do have to like all the pieces that they have there for their talent. All right, let's hit on a couple things real quick here before we go. And that is, one, flexing to Thursday night. Jeff, is this something that will be here until the next CBA when the players say no, or money talks and we're going to see this on a regular basis? But is it going to hurt the top teams because they're not going to be flexing in bottom feeders? So do teams like the Eagles and Chiefs and Niners and Bengals and Bills going to go ahead and just plan on playing 2 Thursday nights?
Yeah, they should plan on it because, look, this league last year signed the richest TV deals and streaming deals in the history of pro sports, and they want to make everybody happy. So Amazon wasn't happy last year with the games they were putting on. Al Michaels was very vocal about it. I don't know what the ratings were. I don't keep track of that stuff, but I know that, or what the streaming numbers were. But I know that stuff resonated with the league, and so you just saw the league sell a playoff game to Peacock for $110 million. I mean, they're going to do whatever it takes to make sure the people paying the bills are going to be happy. And so the owners are the ones making these decisions. They're going to worry about the players. Yeah, when the players start having the leverage to make this stuff go away. And I don't think it's going away. I'll be honest with you. I think this is just one more indication of, at some point, there's probably going to be an 18-game schedule. At some point, there's going to be more evolving games, and that's just the way they're going to do business.
Yeah. Eric, your thoughts on Thursday night being flexible from 13 to 17 in the schedule?
I mean, the league is already an awful place to go to games for like middle class fans and lower, but like this just makes it worse, right? Like this is, if you're somebody who, like if you're a fan of a team that is in a sort of more spread out market like Minnesota, like Kansas City, like Seattle, San Francisco, any of the California teams, any of the Texas teams, where you're traveling multiple hours just to go to a game, if you're in that area, this is awful, right? Like this is a very like regressive thing. But the league very clearly, like if you look at ticket prices, I used to go to Bengals games for I used to walk up to the gate when I first lived here. And like now, if you want to go, it's like 10 times as expensive now. So I think the league is basically saying, look, like we can get away with this, so we're going to.
Yeah, I think so as well. Anything? I'm intrigued by it. We don't need to do much on it, but the international markets. We have the Germany games that are coming up this year. We have all the games in England, Mexico, but now assigning new markets. And I saw as far as where they're going, they've got a whole list. But basically, they added the Atlanta Falcons, which I don't get. Right, like New England, Tampa, Seattle, and Kansas City. We're all on Germany. They've added Atlanta to it. I thought those were your markets. Nobody else could be in. What do you do? Just put your hand up? It's okay. Now I'm in on that market. That's the part that I don't get. And then 3 of those teams on the Germany, New England, Tampa, and Kansas City, added Austria and Switzerland. Right? So, like, is that the next step on this, Jeff, that we're going to see games in Switzerland, games in Austria? Is all of Europe? We know that Germany's been going. Like, what is this? Where does this ultimately go when they're now adding markets for these teams overseas?
Well, I think that I look at this 2 ways. One is I understand what they're trying to do. They want to capitalize on the success of the game. They want to sell it in different places. They want to see what kind of response they get. But the other part of this for me is that in the past was always the end goal always seemed to be let's try to find a way to have the league expand into these places. So London was supposed to be a place that you could have a team at some point. I've always thought that was just fool's gold. That football is an American game. It's not like basketball or baseball where you're playing in other countries and it's found a lot of popularity. I mean, until you have a sport being played in these places at the grassroots level by kids, it's very hard to compete and sell it that way. And so when I feel like the NFL goes to these places, it feels a lot like when the draft shows up in Kansas City or Green Bay, where it's going to go next. It's like a carnival. It's an event, but it's not really a place where you can really plant seeds and have it grow into something. So that's how I look at it. Like, it's great to do it, but I think it's always going to end up being a one-off.
There is I think a 4-team like juniors league that they're starting in. I think it's based someplace in Britain. They're bringing kids from Nigeria and Germany in, and I think they're going to have a league, and they're talking about it even in going and playing against college teams. So it's younger guys. So I think that's a great point, Jeff. I don't know how that's going to work. I've talked to people who were offered coaching jobs in that, and they weren't offering much money to relocate your family overseas to do it. So I don't know how serious they are about, getting behind that. I know that they would like to, the NBA has tapped the African market and has really gone in with NBA Africa and trying to get, some of the great athletes there into the league. And I think the NFL is like, whoa, wait a minute. we're behind on this. So I do think it'll be interesting where it goes.
Eric,
Eric,
the last 3 NBA MVPs have been what? Non-Americans?
Yeah, that's 3 players, which constitutes 5 consecutive MVP awards that have been non-Americans, and 4 of the 5 first-team All-NBA players are international, are not Americans. There's only one American. LeBron James was the only American. Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, and the Mavericks guard.
Doncic.
Or the other ones on it. So, yeah, I mean – and I think the NFL is trying to play catch up on that front as well. Eric, you got any reaction to the international games?
Dude, I watch old games on YouTube. I found this like random Vikings Bears preseason game from Sweden in like 1988, and Vern Lundquist was like going off about how like no one in Sweden knew anything about football and like how they were like waiting for somebody to kick the ball. It was honestly hysterical. But I agree with Jeff. I think this has to be slow. I think you look at Pro Football Focus, where I used to work. It came out of a message board in the UK from a few people who are really obsessed with it. Like, I think when it comes to football, you're gonna have to breed diehards, and that and fandom is one of the ways you do it. We're never gonna move teams to anywhere but maybe London, but I think you can like build fan bases and build the especially with how how much TV and stuff is easy to stream now. I sort of make it akin to like what the Premier League now in the US, where like there's a lot of people wake up really early on Sunday and watch the Premier League in the US, but we're not getting Premier League teams in the United States.
Well, they are. We're not, and we're not getting regular season games either. They'll come over and play some preseason games, but they're not coming over and playing regular season games. They'll play exhibitions, and I think that is one of the things that's interesting. The time slot is also the other part of it. These are late games, late slots, NFL over in Europe. But I'll object. I don't think London's the only town that can do it. And if you had one in London, you could easily have 2. It is a massive city that already houses in the EPL about like 5 of the 20 teams are all in the metropolitan area of London. So they could easily handle more than one team there. I think Germany is going to be – I've got a buddy who's German, and he says the NFL is giant over there. It is giant. I got another friend who went over there. He's a big Dortmund soccer fan. And he was over there, and when he went to see a Dortmund match, he said the guy was wearing a Steelers hat, and he talked to him all day. The guy loved the NFL. I think Germany is going to really surprise some people as to how into it they are. And they like combat sports. I mean, they're into physicality. So I think they could end up playing it. I could see a 4-team division over there at some point. I know it's been talked about amongst the owners. I think I brought it up here, like little way station training facilities, in England and New York and California, to be able to make the schedules work and have them not have to go home in between each game. I think it is a possibility, but I'll give them credit. They're diving in. Yeah, they're going after it, no doubt. All right, that's going to do it for us here on the 2 Deep Podcast. We'll be back at it. Remember, we stream live Tuesday nights about 9 o'clock Central. You can be a part of the conversation there. Make sure you hit that like button, the subscribe button, the love button. Share it with all your friends. Doesn't cost you nothing, but it does us a world of good. We appreciate it. And of course, thanks, as always, to our sponsor, GAN Asphalt and Concrete. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warranty, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Find them online. It's GANasphalt.com. That's GANasphalt.com. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Eric Eager, who seems to be getting lower and lower in his seat as he gets more and more tired during his move from Sumer Sports. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. And thank you very much for joining us here on 2 Deep.